Welcome back to Ozzy and the Pro. Today we're going to talk about a very controversial topic.
Yeah, it's something that nobody can really determine 100%. It's all based on opinion for the most part. Is who is the greatest MMA athlete of all time, current and past, present, And right now it's a big topic because Khabib just announced his retirement and Jon Jones is extremely mad about everybody else who's been saying he's the greatest of all time, including the bosses, Sean Shelby and Dana White. And Sean Shelby's not a very outspoken character in MMA, even though he's one of the biggest roles in the UFC. He sent out a tweet saying, which is absolutely, I 100% agree with, is that he was comparing it to like if somebody were to never even score a touchdown on you, if you were a football player, you know what I mean? Like, or you know what I mean, never going to a game 7 or never going to
the interception.
Yeah, exactly, all of that, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what Khabib was able to do in MMA. He was able to have basically, I'm not sure his career prior to the UFC, he won all of them. I know that, but as far as his UFC career, he's been completely dominant the whole way through. Not really any close fights. He's lost one round against Conor McGregor.
And that round was like
up in the air anyway. And it doesn't matter because it went to a finish, right? It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. But he's won every fight by a landslide.
So here's the thing that with Jon Jones is like I understand you're a competitor. I understand you fought for 10 years. 2 totally different weight classes. I would argue light heavyweight is. I would argue, you might have a different opinion, but not as competitive as the lightweight division.
No, man, no way. Like, this is how I look at that situation. Oh, here, yeah, continue.
Okay, and then I'll let you say your point too. But like, why couldn't the man just be like, you know what? Khabib just fought. Lost his dad. He just amazing. It was his best performance yet.
Yeah.
Had a perfect career. Like, just let it sit. You're gonna fight again anyways. Like, he's gonna move up to heavyweight or fight easier, whatever the hell he's gonna do next. Fight Jan Blachowicz, like whatever he does next, then he can bring that up again. So it's kind of, I think it's kind of petty and just let it breathe a little bit.
It's weird too, just the amount he's talking about it. It's not like it was one post or one video. It's multiple. Like, this guy's getting drunk or something. You know what I mean? Just tweeting. But what I have to say about that, like you said, comparing the 2 weight classes is not even close. You know what I mean? Like the best guy that he's beaten is Daniel Cormier, and I mean, realistically, Daniel Cormier was 40 years old. Let's be real about that. Like, Khabib's not fighting no old head, you know what I mean? Not to take anything away from Daniel Cormier, but that's the pinnacle of what you're fighting, is a guy who's past his prime physically, you know what I mean? And then you got Khabib, who's beaten everybody, Gaethje, Poirier, and not even close fights.
Making these people look like amateurs.
Yeah, 100%. Where they haven't amounted a single bit of offense. Maybe a couple
Jones
flashes.
Has 3 fights where I think he could have lost.
Arguably lost.
Santos, Gustafsson won, and the Reyes fight.
Yeah.
Right. So and the thing with Jones is, if you look at his last 3 opponents, Reyes, Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
And what's his name?
Santos, right?
Santos, yeah. Which was a fight that was pretty close, and you're fighting a guy with basically one leg.
Yeah.
I'm not taking Jon Jones. I would argue is if somebody the fact that he argues that, I'm not even mad at that.
No, 100%.
Because he has something to
He's
stand
worked
on.
for it.
He has a foot to stand on. The guy's been 10 years undefeated or whatever.
He hasn't lost. Let's be real. He hasn't lost ever. But he's had close fights. That's the thing.
He's had 3 fights that have been very suspect.
And this is what we were talking about, comparing the light heavyweight division to the lightweight division. Is okay, so Jon Jones wins by fighting Shogun, who's been fighting already at that point for how long? You know what I mean? He was kind of, and look at everybody's career after fighting Jon Jones. Or even before fighting Jon Jones. I feel like when he fought Rashad Evans was obviously on the down, I mean, he fought, who else? Rampage. That guy was obviously on the down, Who else did he fight for those titles?
Glover
Teixeira, guys who are on the down, you know what I mean? These are all guys I'd like to know the average age of his title fight opponents, because I guarantee they're all past the 30, you know what I mean? Mid-30s. Like I said, his biggest wins have been Daniel Cormier. And that was a guy who was fighting very late 30s and even into his 40s, Not to take anything away from him, but I'm just saying that's what you're comparing,
To be honest, you just remind me of another topic is Khabib fighting GSP. I don't care about that fight at all.
Yeah.
And the reason I don't care about that fight is because he's not fighting the GSP that was fighting and like a champion at one time. I do not care about that fight.
Yeah,
GSP has the same reason.
GSP has 0 to gain out of that.
0 to gain, and if Khabib wins, though, to me, what do you prove? You beat a guy
who's almost 40 now,
Yeah,
that's what I mean. A guy who hasn't competed in who knows how long, since 2017, I believe, 2017. So it's like it's hard to talk. That's why I don't even care about the PEDs, getting caught for the PEDs. I don't think it has anything to do with that. Because I believe that he fought in an era where fucking everybody was on him anyway. And you know what? Who knows? I feel like people are at the point now in this sport where they can find ways around this. And I feel like, who knows? Maybe Khabib's I'm sure Khabib's taken something in his career that would be banned on the USADA list. I guarantee it. Every fucking athlete probably has. You know what I mean? Whether he's gotten caught for it or not. I don't think that's been the difference in Jones's career. Like, that's not why Jones is winning fights at the end of the day. That's not why Khabib's going to be winning fights. They're winning fights because they're better, Like, I don't think... So when people bring that up, or people are bringing up, like, an ethical standpoint, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about who's the best fighter. That's it.
And so, like, whenever you try to determine... Like, I come from an analytics background. So whenever we try to determine something, it's like, okay, what's the criteria you're working off of? Is it title defenses?
Yeah.
How much are you going to weigh title defenses? Is it the competitiveness? We're talking about the type of guys you're fighting. Is it the dominance? Competitive and dominance, I would give to Khabib.
Yeah, 100%.
Especially in this day and age. Like,
look
how far MMA has come in the last so many years,
mm-hmm.
and look who Jones has fought in the last several years versus
Yeah, even Khabib's run up to the title. Like he beat Rafael dos Anjos. Like. These are guys, like, he's beaten tons of guys that are amazing fighters, and made them look like nothing. Edson Barboza, Michael Johnson, like, he's just made these guys look like they're nobodies. And, man, you're looking at, okay, so, like you said, you just named Jones' last 3 title defenses. You have Dominic Reyes, who hasn't even been fighting MMA or even training, really, his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Thiago Santos, former 185. Anthony Smith, former 185. Thiago Santos was doing great before the Jones fight. Like, he was on a good streak. But you look at Anthony Smith since the Jones fight, and he's been completely dominated by everybody he's fought.
He lost the Uzdemir fight.
Yeah. Exactly. He hasn't had one good
he
fight.
He won that fight. I'm saying, I would argue that he lost that fight.
He hasn't had one good performance. And if you look at his record prior to that, it would attest for that. Like, he beat 3 very old former champions in the lead up to that fight, like, to get his title shot. It's like they're throwing Jones anybody they can at this point with who's on some sort of decent streak,
So what are the things that you weigh as, like, I just talked about the criteria, like,
I feel like level of competition is a big thing, and I'm always gonna say this too: lighter weights are more skilled fighters. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, so if we're talking about greatest of all time, pound for pound, whatever. There's no way you can't talk about Demetrius Johnson.
I was say that.
You can, and everybody forgets about him because he's no longer in the UFC, and that weight class never really got the respect it deserved. But if you look at the guys he's beat, like Joe Benavidez, you know what I mean? Joe Benavidez was competing at an extremely high level at 135 for majority of his career until they introduced the 125 division into the UFC. And Mighty Mouse was able to do very well against him and dominate him, really. Well, first fight was close, but second fight was just... He came out and he solidified that fight. And Demetrius Johnson's a guy who, other than the Cejudo fight, which also another toss-up fight, a lot of arguably won, arguably lost, and look at what Cejudo's been able to do since then, and that should really show where Demetrius Johnson's at. So
like, I feel like there's a popularity thing involved in this. Another thing too about the whole GOAT conversation, and it has nothing to do with the actual skill level, but personal opinion again, I really respect people who are amazing at what they do, but they're, like, amazing off the court, off, out of the ring too. And you see guys like Ronaldo, like, always, like, visiting kids who are sick, or, like, going out of his way to make somebody else happy, or donating, or, so like I know that it doesn't really play in this conversation, but I mean, you know, back to Khabib, like the guy's a gem outside the ring. You know, he's like an example for the world to look at.
Extremely humble, humble. I feel that way. Same with Demetrius Johnson too. Extremely humble. Even in his loss against Cejudo, you know, he was just like, oh, whatever, I lost. I'm not even like, you know, and then he just left the UFC. He didn't even want to be part of it no more. But then I think everybody forgets that he absolutely crushed Cejudo the first time they fought. I think everybody forgets that too. He absolutely crushed him, like within a minute and a half.
Almost.
Yeah. Like John Dodson, the first fight was a little bit close. You know, he had some hard times in that fight. Second fight absolutely dominates him to the point where it's like the guy didn't even win a round.
This is an interesting conversation too, because it's like, to your point, the guy loses one fight and all of a sudden he's at a goat
he's out of it. Yeah.
So if you want to look at Khabib, you know, everyone's like, oh, he's retiring on top. I think the guy, look at Khabib's face. He probably sustained 5 times more damage in practice.
Oh,
for
easily.
sure. Yeah. You know? So like the guy has his head. You know, like nothing. Like thank God. Hopefully nothing's wrong with
like, I'm sure that's another reason, a good reason for why he'll come back. You know, he's never had a point in his life where he's been like, oh, you know, maybe this is wearing down on my body. I don't know if he's had any significant injuries. I don't know.
Yeah, on his knees.
Yeah. Okay. So.
And I think his back and that weight cut.
But like So he had weight cutting issues for a while there, but that seemed to all be figured out by the end. But yeah, you know, I feel like that's a guy who's probably going to come back and even win more fights. You know, like
I think he should coach.
Yeah,
I think he should coach and like just like because to leave like how. No, like if you leave it there, nobody could ever argue that you weren't the most dominant fighter of all time.
And even now, like I'm trying to think of MMA, like who's a superstar that everybody talks about.
I'm telling you, if Hamza walks through Leon Edwards, he'll
get a title shot immediately. I know,
100% he will. Like that's a guy who I'm not saying he's going to. Right?
Yeah.
Like I want him to. I love the guy, but I'm just saying like if he continues on that trajectory, that's a type of dominance. That compares to it's even crazier.
Yeah, it's
like on a different level. I don't think he's gonna.
No, there's
top 5 fighters. He's not gonna
have that easy of a time.
But even if he can win the majority of rounds like that, you have another dominant superstar.
Like I don't feel like 170 or 185 is necessarily deep divisions, but when you get to the top 3, top 4, top 5, those guys are all killers. You know what I mean? Like you got Usman, Kobe. I don't even know if you can put Tyrone there no more. But he's lost 15 rounds in a row. Burns. You got Burns, Usman, Covington, Masvidal, Edwards. You know what I mean? People are still sleeping on Edwards. You know, he hasn't fought any. Like I don't think he's fought extremely elite level competition, but he's been pretty dominant other than his Usman fight.
Izzy, Whitaker, Costa, Romero. Like that,
that's what I mean. You get to the top 4, and they're all, and then Hermanson too is looking good. I feel like Gaslam's somebody who's still always dangerous. Till's always dangerous. You know what I mean?
Cannonier broke his arm, right?
Yeah,
in that Whitaker fight.
I mean, it's an injury caused by like a strike, so I don't really like count that, but like still.
So let's. I have an interesting question here. So future goal, like not future goal, but. Who do you think is going to be the pound for pound best fighter in the UFC in a year or two?
In a year,
I have 2 predictions.
Oh, like current fighters only.
But somebody that you suspect will either get there or
break through,
or is there now even?
I think Peter Yan has a chance of really showing some dominance in that 135 division because. I really do believe that the 135 division is also one of the deepest divisions too. It's like not just the top 5, it's the top 10, all the way to the top 15. You know what I mean? And then who else do we have?
Does your brother fight at 135?
125. Yeah. And then the 145 division is actually it's in a weird spot right now. The thing is though, at those weight classes, they're not necessarily superstars. You know what I mean? When you talk about Khabib, everybody knows who he is. You know, he's got like 10, 20 million followers on Instagram. Like he's very well known even outside of MMA. So there after Khabib, that's what I mean. Like there's not really a lot of people that are like him, you know, like where it's like even outside of MMA, they have a presence and a popularity, right? Except for maybe McGregor. So I don't know. Maybe McGregor will come back and win that belt, and it'll be. That's
I
it.
don't think
If there's anybody who's gonna make a big splash, who has a chance to make a big splash in that aspect, it's either McGregor comes back and wins or Khamzat. Those are the only two people I could really think that really could come back.
I think Izzy. Like,
Israel too. Yeah.
I think you said it earlier.
If he gets a big fight, like I'm trying to think who he has to fight next.
Bro, this is my prediction. This is my prediction. Hear this out. So, if Izzy fights Whitaker again, smashes him, great. If he fights John Jones in like a year time, then he's gonna be like, and John Jones still holds the lightweight belt, then
he's GOAT.
He's GOAT.
Yeah, if you beat John Jones as a double weight champ coming up.
Yeah, that's like, and you know what? I'll say the same thing about if John Jones goes up and beats Stipe.
Yeah.
And he can. Stipe is older.
Yeah, I think he can. And
like, he should do that.
I think the heavyweight division is the least amount of skill. It's like guaranteed. It's just how it is, you know. And I'm sure John Jones, well, he was a training partner with Alistair Overeem for a long time. I'm sure they've gotten rounds in, you know. So I know Jones definitely knows how he stacks up against like some of those elite level heavyweights.
Yeah, he's got like, I feel like his legs are just like, you know, like, I mean.
You never know.
Yeah, you
never know. Like, heavyweights aren't the guys that are going to be throwing crazy fucking low kicks and shit, you know. So, but.
Okay, so we've talked about Peter Yan. We've talked about Khamzat Chimaev. We talked about John Jones, Izzy. So 145 division. Who do we have undefeated? We have Zabit, who's undefeated.
Yeah.
Who's? Volkanovski. I don't. His
last fight was just questionable. Too questionable.
Very questionable. Man. I thought Holloway won.
But he also erased the Holloway chapter for now.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
He should never. Yeah.
So they won't fight again anytime soon. Holloway's gonna need to fight, and then you got Calvin Kattar, who's on the come up.
Yeah.
Like that's what I mean. Like Zabit's a sick fighter, but he needs to obviously do a 5-round fight before he gets a title shot.
He needs a couple, and I mean to hit that gold status, he needs a couple of title defenses.
For sure.
Or needs to move up or down and grab another. Yeah, but I think he could be another fighter that's on his way.
Yeah. You got to look at guys who've just been so dominant, you know. But that's that kind of talk though is way in the future. For right now, I feel like the only three, four. I don't really.
I think Yan won't. Like I feel like what you said though. Part of his popularity too, and I feel like Yan just won't get like
Peter Yan. Yeah, that weight class won't get.
Like, it just doesn't get the same.
Unless somehow this is what I could see. Cody Garbrandt goes down, wins the 125 belt, comes back up for a big fight at 135. That's the only thing I could see, you know?
Like to bring the division yeah.
Because Cody Garbrandt, no matter what, people still talk
about
it.
Or if Cejudo comes back and fights Yan.
Yeah. Yeah, Captain Cringe. And then...
there's a bunch of cringe in the UFC right now. Yeah.
So, okay, let's just name our personal top 5 GOATs right now, personally. So, for me, I got Khabib number 1. I got John Jones number 2, GSP number 3, Silva number 4. So those like they're so interchangeable too. And then Demetrius Johnson number 5. See, I would even probably put Demetrius Johnson number 3. I'd probably put Demetrius Johnson number 3, GSP number 4, Silva number 5. That's my correction. I'm gonna do that.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Khabib 1. Yeah, Jones 2. After that, I mean, like, I'll just say a couple names, but it's, Demetrius Johnson, like, that guy was on a tear for such a long time. And I mean, when you lose a fight, like, against Cejudo, I mean, that's, you know.
That's another guy who's, close. Like, probably right there, 6, 7,
yeah, 8, yeah. I would say those guys. Silva had way too many losses.
Post-title reign, though.
Yeah, true.
Like, if you're talking about the most dominant they were, like, fuck, not a lot of people did it like Anderson Silva, you know? That's a guy who was also moving up and beating former champions in their prime, you know?
Yeah.
That's the only reason like, people forget what Anderson Silva was doing.
I forget.
Yeah.
I had to look at his record and I was like, oh, damn, okay. But he's, again, like, dominance to me is, like, making your competition look like nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
but back then, man, you watched what he did to Rich Franklin when he won the belt, and then he did it again. And then he did it again, and then again. The only questionable title fight he had, which he still won, was Chael Sonnen was the only close one.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. Other than that, he didn't have any fights where it was like, oh, it went to a decision and he maybe lost, you know.
Yeah.
In his title reign, and then even the Weidman fights, you know, like he got caught. I think he could have won those fights. You know what I mean?
That was so stupid.
Yeah, like he could have won those fights. Even the second one it looked like he was kind of putting it on, and then his leg broke.
So
But
I'm still gonna say like for like my criteria, like because he has so many L's.
Yeah, post.
I can't
Yeah.
like I think he's one of the best fighters ever.
Yeah, like a top 10.
Yeah,
Go.
top 10,
Yeah.
top 10 go, and yeah, and obviously like this is such like a hypothetical conversation, anyways. But yeah, I think he took out some killers, and he was amazing. Like he got to a point where he just ran it. But
Yeah.
I think because of his L's, I'm not gonna put him in my top 5 list.
Yeah. So wait, your top 5. Who's your 3, 4? Oh, your 4 and 5.
Well, I said Khabib, Jones, and then after that I just said like Demetrius Johnson, GSP. No order.
GSP. Okay.
No order. Yeah, Demetrius Johnson, GSP, and then I don't even know.
Cormier is close there too, man. But
yeah, he held 2 titles.
Yeah.
He has too many. Actually, it's just
Stipe and Jones.
Yeah, man.
And at his age, is
Yeah,
what is
you know
crazy.
what? Yeah, let's throw Cormier.
Yeah.
And Cejudo, man. Cejudo's
Cejudo
like,
too, because he hasn't really lost.
bro, when you win a gold medal,
he's the greatest combat athlete of all time. Like he is, like he's better combat athlete overall than all those other guys because he has an Olympic gold medal. The youngest Olympic gold medal wrestler ever. So I don't think people realize what it takes to become an Olympian, or that like the trials you have to go through and the the process that is, and then to go to fighting after that and just be as dominant as he was. He didn't really have close fights at the end either.
Okay, and your future picks? Mine are Hamza and Izzy. I think one of those guys, or Jones if he fights Stipe. So like I have a couple of caveats, but I think one of those guys is like on a. I mean, and sorry, if Hamza this guy's talking about fighting like the welterweight and middleweight champ. If he does that shit, there's no talk.
Yeah, like
there's no
that.
talk.
Yeah, I think Kamza is like somebody who like in the next 2 years could hit that. Next 2-3 years, and then I think if McGregor comes back and wins this belt and starts killing people, I think he's someone to talk about.
I don't think he has it in him.
I don't think he does, but I'm just saying that.
I think he has the capability, the skill. I just don't think he has the motivation.
No, I truly don't believe it either. But I'm just saying in that like if he were to.
How old is McGregor now? 34.
Yeah, around there. Maybe not even that old. But that's somebody who could. Who else? And then I believe Israel too. If he comes, if he has like a big fight or two in the next year, and then Jones, obviously.
32 years old.
Yeah, that's not old, man.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
You never know, but like we were talking about motivation, what gets you going.
UFC's starting to pay a little bit more.
But
I think if
but for example, McGregor comes back, he knocks out, say, I don't know, Michael Chandler, and then he knocks out.
He could easily knock out Michael Chandler.
And then he comes back, knocks out Tony Ferguson.
How do you think?
Comes back, knocks out Gaethje.
Like, I don't want to get too much into it, but like, what do you think about the Poirier fight? Because Poirier is a different fighter.
I think the biggest thing in the first fight was, like I said, it's a Mike Tyson effect. As soon as he walked in the ring, he lost. That fight was over before it started, right? I think that was mainly what it was. And then because you look at Dustin Poirier now, and he's just like, it's a war.
He's composed too, man. Like he's a. I mean, he gets into war, but he's very strategic, very technical. So.
Anyways, though, I don't want to get too off topic.
Yeah.
So, but that's our GOAT picks. Anybody, our present and future possible GOAT picks. Anybody who has your own opinion on anything, just leave a comment below. And thank you very much for tuning in.